what you want to do is put the school on notice. Even if your child is only entering kindergarten, you want the school to know that you do not want your child exposed to gender ideology. You want to know about any instance in which this is going to be taught in class beforehand. You don't want your child attending that class. You don't want your child joining any club at school where these things are discussed. You do not give your permission for your child to meet with the guidance counselor without your knowledge, or with any other third party without your knowledge. And you certainly do not give permission to the school to socially transition your child, meaning to use a new name and pronouns. And there are numerous instances that I talk about in my book, and there are lawsuits against schools, not only in blue states, but in red states as well, in which schools are keeping this from parents and placing a wedge between the child and the parents. So I have these appendices that are dealing how you can proactively deal with the school to avoid these kind of scenarios, put the school on alert, know your rights. Parents have a constitutional right to be in charge and direct their child's education and health care and mental health care. And the Supreme Court has been very clear on this issue. So parents have to know their rights. Another important appendix that I have there by the same attorneys is on child protective services. Because we know that in some instances, unfortunately, child protective services are being called on families that will not go with the narrative, the gender identity narrative, and they refuse to use the names and the pronouns and take their children to a gender clinic. And this is now being called emotional abuse and medical neglect. So, you know, I tell the story, a terrible story actually, of something that happened, a child being removed for those reasons. So parents have to know their rights. Now, what else do I have? I have an appendix just with basic biology. Okay, I want parents, again, not PhD level. This is for regular moms and dads. I want you to know what to say. When your high school student or 8th grader or what have you comes home and says at the dinner table, you know, trans is as normal as having red hair, or intersex is as normal as being redheaded. Well, you know, that's not quite correct. And I want parents to understand how the language and how biology itself is actually being co-opted and twisted and used for this agenda. So I have that, the biology, schools, CPS. I have a list of current key articles on this topic, so that if you have an appointment with your principal, guidance counselor, therapist, pediatrician, whoever, you can come to their office if this is something that you need to be discussing with them and say, look, you may have not heard of the other side of the argument. There's actually a debate going on, and I have done a lot of research, and I would love for you, here are some articles that have been written by leaders in the field that are on the other side of the debate, the gender affirming care debate. Please, would you take a look at these? And then we could talk some more about it. So I provide that. And then, you know, what I'm really excited about, Jan, is that while I was writing this book, I decided to make use of all my connections that I have with the parents. And I did a survey with the parents' help, an international survey, asking parents, these are parents that are now or did go through having a gender distressed child. I asked them, what do you wish that you had known or had done before all this happened in your family, before your child came to you with the announcement? What do you wish you had known? What information would you want to share with other families who might go through this in the future that might make their experience navigating this great difficulty somewhat easier. And I got responses from 500 parents from 17 different countries. And so I have an appendix to the book in which I gathered some of the most, I think, valuable and touching input that I got from those parents. And it's sort of like a parent-to-parent advice. Because who knows better than the parents who have already gone through it, some of them for many years.
No, and then that speaks to my other question of what people might do when they are faced with this situation in their home. Yeah.
Okay, so that's not easy. What you're trying to do is walk on a tightrope. The tightrope is, on the one hand, I'm with you and I'm connected to you and I love you, and whatever you're going through, I'm a part of it. I'm going to go through it with you and support you and do as much research as I need in order to become an expert in this. That's the one side. On the other side is, I'm not going to give you what you want right now, what you're asking me. I am not calling you by a different name or different pronouns, and I am not making an appointment at a gender clinic to get puberty blockers. I am not doing that right now. And so you're kind of balancing those two things. And the advice that I give to parents is basically, look, your child needs you. It may not look like that, it may not seem that way, but please remember that your child needs you and wants your approval. This is a difficult conversation for your child as well. What you want to try and do is use this time to focus on the child. This is not a time to argue. This is not a time to run to and start Googling, and start getting data and information on suicide or on blockers. No. You want this to be a time that, your child walks away from the conversation feeling, well, they didn't agree with me. They're not giving me what I want right now, but they also didn't at all reject me. They didn't make me feel bad for the way that I'm feeling right now. They seem to want to understand, they want to learn more, they're open to it. And you want to model for your child that there can be big disagreements between people, but that doesn't mean that you have to lose your loving connection.